Chapter 1156. Behind him, the jaws of all the students who were talking about him dropped to the ground. Fuck, it's really Zhuang Rongguang. Did that kid go for plastic surgery? Could it be that plastic surgery can also change the brain? Ha 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 ha, that's right. Can plastic surgery cure a retard? There was a burst of laughter and discussion. Based on Zhuang Rongguang's temper in the past, he would have rushed up to pick a fight with his fists. However, perhaps because of the life and death situation last night, he felt that he was so childish that he wanted to slap himself. These people were right. He was indeed a retard in the past. Seeing Zhuang Rongguang turn his head and see them laughing at him, but he did not say a word. He just turned around and walked back to the school building. Everyone was surprised. What's going on? Did he take the wrong medicine? I think his family messed with him. Did his family mess with him enough? He's just mud that can't hold up a wall. I feel like I've been stimulated by something. Hey, why are you talking so much? Isn't it good to have another handsome guy in school? You guys can have school hunkshong. I'm going to pursue a new goal. A day of classes felt like a year to Zhuang Rongguang. Because he had never attended a class before, he did not understand anything. The whole day was like listening to a book from heaven, which made it even more difficult. Finally, school was over. The young man's expression was a little gloomy. Fortunately, he was only a little disappointed and did not look like he had given up. At the school gate, two people squatted in a corner not far away. They were dressed in strange clothes and had dyed hair. They had cigarettes in their hands and were staring at the stream of people leaving school while puffing out clouds of smoke. One of them took out his phone and dialed a number. Hello, Photon. Where are you? Why is your phone turned off when I call you? Opposite you. Zhuang Rongguang stood at the school gate and looked at his two former best friends. Sunbin held his phone and looked around the school gate. Then, his eyes fixed on a boy who was holding a phone. The next second, the cigarette in his mouth fell to the ground. You, Photon? Zhuang Rongguang hung up and walked in front of the two. What's up? Sunbin and Liang Haoqiang looked at the young man in front of them as if they had seen a ghost. Photon, are you okay? Zhuang Rongguang looked at the time on his phone and looked a little impatient. If you have something to say, say it. If not, I'm going home. Cough, Photon, are you angry because of what happened last night? We really don't have a choice. Where are we going to raise so much money? By the way, how did you get out later? Did your sister send money over? Sunbin asked. Did you ask for more from your sister? Let's go and recoup our losses tonight. You're so lucky. You'll definitely be able to recoup your losses today. Liang Haoqiang rubbed his hands excitedly. Last night, when he waited for the two of them, he had thought countless times that he would beat them up if he saw them again. But when it really came to this, he didn't even want to waste his energy talking to them. If he was really betrayed by his brothers, he could still be angry. But these two, what kind of brothers were they? Scram, Zhuang Rongguang directly said to the two of them and then walked away without looking back. Chapter 1157. The Zhuang Family. Recently, a few of Zhuang Liaoyuan's old comrades had come to the imperial capital from other provinces for business. Since it was rare for them to get together, Zhuang Liaoyuan specially invited them to his home as guests. Zhuang Kuer methodically entertained the guests and then went to the kitchen to instruct the servants to prepare dinner. In the living room, a middle-aged man with a 3-star epaulet on his shoulder warmly greeted. How has the old chief been recently? Father has been in the military sanatorium recently, and his body is still healthy. Zhuang Liaoyuan replied as he poured tea for them. Sister-in-law hasn't been transferred back yet? I've already reported it to the higher-ups, but I think it'll be difficult to get it approved. Sigh, luckily you have Kuer by your side. I haven't seen her for a few years, and she's really grown into a slender and elegant woman. I wonder which kid will be so lucky in the future. I bet even Zhuang Liaoyuan can't bear to let such a good daughter get married. Ha ha ha. Listening to the teasing of his comrades, Zhuang Liaoyuan's expression was very comforted at the mention of this daughter who was good at everything. His wife was very secretive when it came to military research. She was stationed in the research lab all year round and couldn't come back, devoting all her time to her career and country. Zhuang Liaoyuan spent most of his time in the military, So everything at home was handled by Kuer. Right. How's Rongwang recently? One of them asked casually. As soon as the question left his mouth, the other comrades beside him immediately shook their heads nervously at him. Why did he have to mention it? The person who asked the question just now seemed a little embarrassed, but the question had already been asked, and there was no way to take it back. Zhuang Liaoyuan's face was full of bitterness as he looked at the nervous expressions of his comrades because they were worried about his reputation. He had lost all his face because of that kid, so why would he care about his reputation anymore? Even if he had a temper made of iron, he was now disheartened. Rongwang, it's still the same, Zhuang Liaoyuan said. The words "the same" already expressed all his helplessness. Hey, right, let me tell you guys some big news. Do you remember the 3 drug kingpins who ran away 4 years ago? Old K, Poison Eye, and Dragon Head. Someone diverted everyone's attention. Remember, what's wrong? Sure enough, everyone was quite interested in this topic. They've all been caught. Old K was seriously injured, and his face was disfigured. Dragonhead was shot in the head and died on the spot. Only Poison Eye fared slightly better, with a concussion. They're all locked up in the police station. Is that so? Zhuang Liaoyuan's attention was also attracted. Who did this? We couldn't find anything. That place was remote, and there were no surveillance cameras or witnesses. Later, we found a few hooligans who usually hung out with them. Their testimonies were consistent. They all said that they got drunk and started fighting among themselves. Even Old K and Poison Eye said so themselves, and there didn't seem to be any problems from the traces at the scene. But I still feel that there's something fishy. Who cares? It didn't matter if it was a fight between themselves or someone else, it was still a good thing. Damn it. In order to catch these 3 fish that escaped the net, we lost 2 of our comrades. In the living room, Zhuang Liaoyuan and the others were chatting enthusiastically. Suddenly, a familiar voice came from behind. I'm back? Oh, Gloria's back, right? Everyone looked towards the door. Chapter 1158. Why did he come back so early? Zhuang Liaoyuan had a suspicious look on his face. That brat always came back after he was done playing outside. Moreover, he had not been home recently, so he should be even more lawless. As Zhuang Liaoyuan was thinking about this, he turned around and looked at the door with a straight face. He was about to scold him like he always did when he was about to say something like, "You still know how to come back." However, when the words were about to come out of his mouth, he suddenly stopped talking. The young man who was walking in was wearing a school uniform with a backpack on his back. He had clean short hair and looked exactly like a high school student who was full of vigor. This was his son? Not only Zhuang Liaoyuan, but his other comrades were also stunned for a long time. After all, the last time they saw Zhuang Rongwang, his hair was longer than a girl's, and he was dressed in colorful clothes like a palette. Obviously, the young man in front of them was too different from the person in their memory. Uncle Zhang, Uncle Ling, Uncle Zhang. Zhuang Rongwang greeted the guests one by one. Only then did everyone come back to their senses. What an honor. I almost didn't recognize you. Isn't that right? I was stunned for a long time too. Fuck. Zhuang Liaoyuan, were you trying to act pitiful just now? You've grown up and become more sensible. Like I said, like father, like son. He's only a little more like a person now. Is he worth praising? Although Zhuang Liaoyuan was full of doubts, it was obviously not the time to ask too much. He could only casually say that. During dinner, Zhuang Rongwang was also well-behaved from beginning to end. In the past, this kid hated dinners where there were many elders present. Every time, he would take a few bites and then go to his room to play games or sneak out to fool around. This time, he lasted until the whole dinner was over and even followed him to send the guests to the door. After sending the guests off, before the suspicious Zhuang Liang could ask anything, the young man had already taken the initiative to look at his father and said, "Dad, I have something to ask of you." Zhuang Liaoyuan's eyebrows jumped. Good boy. So this was what he was waiting for. He suddenly became so obedient because he had something to ask of him, but this time, he really went all out. He even cut off his most precious hair. Zhuang Liaoyuan's face couldn't help but be a little gloomy. He had already made up his mind that if this brat dared to mention wandering the world again, he would directly cut off the relationship between him and his son and let him wander on his own. "Tell me, what's the matter?" Zhuang Liaoyuan asked in the study room with a cold expression. The young man stood in front of his father, his eyes lingering on his father's silver hair for a few seconds. Chapter 1159. Yes, the young man replied confidently. His expression did not look like he was joking at all. "Why would you suddenly have such a thought? How can I believe that you're not doing this on a whim, or a nasty joke or a bet?" Zhuang Liaoyuan's expression was extremely stern. The young man gritted his teeth and raised his pair of resolute eyes. "Dad, I'm serious this time. As for the reason, you know that I don't have any big dreams or ambitions. I just don't want the people around me to worry about me. I just hope that when something happens, I can protect you guys. I want to be someone you can rely on and not a burden. That's all." Hearing his son's words, Zhuang Liaoyuan could not come back to his senses for a long time. If Zhuang Rongguang had said something like, "I want to protect the country and build a career," he would not have believed a single word of it. However, this was what he had said. Just as Zhuang Liaoyuan was filled with doubts, Zhuang Rongguang took out a terrifying long whip from behind his back and raised it in front of his father with both hands. "Dad, I wanted to listen to my sister and hide it from you, but I really couldn't get over it." The young man's body trembled slightly, probably because he recalled what had happened last night. "Yesterday, I left home in order to get some money. I listened to Sun Bin and Liang Haoqiang and went to the casino. In the end, I fell into someone's trap and lost 5 million. "What did you say?" Hearing this short sentence, Zhuang Liaoyuan slammed the table and stood up. His expression changed abruptly. Zhuang Rongguang moved forward on his knees and placed the whip on the desk in front of Zhuang Lo. He then continued, "Those people were not locals. One look and I knew they were not to be trifled with. Moreover, they had the advantage in numbers. At that time, I was hoping that Sun Bin and Liang Haoqiang would raise money to ransom me. I didn't expect that in the end, they wouldn't come." "Heh, you were hoping that these two brats would raise money to ransom you." Zhuang Liaoyuan's face was gloomy. "How did I, Zhuang Liaoyuan, have such a stupid son like you?" "Then, I did something even more stupid." Zhuang Rongguang's voice was hoarse. "I didn't dare tell my family, and there was no one else I could ask for help. In desperation, I could only call my sister." "Bastard!" Zhuang Liaoyuan smashed the teacup in his hand. At the same time, a strong sense of foreboding appeared in his mind, causing his expression to change. "Did something happen to your sister last night? Tell me." If Ku'er hadn't met with some accident, how could this brat have changed so much? With his experience, it was easy for him to imagine what might have happened last night. When he thought of what might have happened to Ku'er, Zhuang Liaoyuan's mind felt like it was falling apart. "My sister has already brought enough money over according to their request, but they still won't let her go. They said that they want to charge interest and they want my sister to stay with them for a night." In the next second, the whip in Zhuang Liaoyuan's hand landed on the young man's shoulder. Zhuang Rongguang was immediately whipped to the ground. At this time, the door was pushed open from the outside. Zhuang Ku rushed in anxiously and shielded Zhuang Rongguang to stop her father from hitting him again. "Rongguang, didn't I tell you not to tell father? What's wrong with you?" Zhuang Rongguang's face was pale from the pain. "Sister, I don't want to hide in your arms anymore. I will bear the burden. I deserve it." Chapter 1160. Ku'er, get out of my way. I'm going to kill this bastard today. Zhuang Liaoyuan was completely overwhelmed by anger. "I shouldn't have been soft-hearted last time. I shouldn't have been soft-hearted. But your sister was hurt. Why didn't he just shoot this bastard last time? Why?" Zhuang Liaoyuan was completely overwhelmed by remorse. More than that, he blamed himself for his incompetence. If his wife came back and knew all this, how could he explain it to her? And his father. At the thought of these things, he wished he could shoot himself and chase this guy to hell. Seeing her father completely out of control, Zhuang Ku'er hurriedly shouted, "Dad, I'm fine. I'm fine. Nothing happened to me last night." How could Zhuang Liaoyuan believe his daughter's words? He roared with scarlet eyes, "Nothing happened to me. This guy can kneel in front of me now." "Ku'er, get out of my way. Dad, I'm telling the truth. I'm not lying. I was almost bullied by those people last night, but Xiaoxi arrived in time to save me and Rongguang. Rongguang and I spent the night at Xiaoxi's place and came back this morning. If you don't believe me, you can ask Xiaoxi. Xiaoxi? Zhuang Liaoyuan was stunned. Yes, Dad, the 3 drug dealers you and your comrades talked about today, according to your description, they seem to be the 3 people last night. One of them was killed by Xiaoxi with a gun she snatched, the other was knocked out, and the last one was beaten beyond recognition, because when Xiaoxi came here, she saw this person bullying me and beat him up the most. So it should be the 3 of them, there's no mistake. Zhuang Ke explained as quickly as she could. Hearing this, Zhuang Liaoyuan's uncontrollable anger finally subsided a little. What you said is all true. It's absolutely true. Dad, think about it. If something really happened to me last night, how could I still be fine today? Zhuang Ke said hurriedly. Hearing this, Zhuang Liaoyuan's tense face relaxed a little, and he finally completely believed his daughter's words. Then, Zhuang Ke told her father the details of the situation at that time, and then said worriedly, Dad, will Xiaoxi be okay? After all, it was a human life. I've always been worried that we would implicate her. Hearing this, Zhuang Liaoyuan's face turned cold and solemn. What could possibly happen? Even if something happens, I won't let anything happen to her. Hearing this, Zhuang Ke was finally relieved. As long as her father took action, Xiaoxi would definitely be fine. At this moment, Zhuang Liaoyuan finally understood why the 2 men said that they were drunk and got into a fight after they were caught. People like them cared about their reputation the most. How could they admit that they were defeated by a little girl? As for those minions, after seeing Ning Shi's skills last night, they naturally didn't dare to tell the truth out of fear. Get up. Fortunately, your sister is fine. Otherwise, even if you repent 10,000 times, you won't be able to escape death today, Zhuang Liaoyuan said coldly. Zhuang Rongguang covered his bleeding shoulder and slowly stood up with the help of Zhuang Ke. So, this is the reason why you suddenly woke up? Zhuang Liaoyuan asked. Zhuang Rongguang nodded. I want to be a person like Sister Shi. I'll thank God if you can compare with one finger of that girl. Zhuang Liaoyuan snorted coldly. Chapter 1161. Sigh. I owe that girl another favor this time. Zhuang Liaoyuan sighed. Zhuang Ke was also very touched by Ning Shi. It was the first time she had met someone like Ning Shi. If someone was nice to her, she would dig out her heart to repay them. Zhuang Liaoyuan looked up at his son. I will arrange everything for you, as long as you sincerely want to make a change this time. Also, tomorrow is Saturday. Take some time to visit your grandfather at the sanatorium, so he can be at ease. As for what happened last night, you can explain, but don't tell me like you did to me. I almost killed you. Your grandfather has a heart attack. Dad, I know what to say. Good. Go and take care of the wound. Okay. Late at night, Zhuang Liaoyuan stood by the window with his hands behind his back. He looked at the night sky with a complicated expression. He hoped that the kid would really grow up this time. People would only grow up after experiencing trials and hardships. What about Ning Shi? What did she go through to be able to grow to where she was today? The next day, capital, history headquarters. Ning Xuelua's eyes were gloomy. Beside her stood Dai Wei and some of the core executives. The Zhuang family's matter was completely messed up. History had been suffering a series of losses recently. Especially in terms of the quality of the new clothes, they were not as good as before. Although the design department would release new clothes every once in a while, they were not as good as before. Coupled with the fact that Zhe Ling and the fashion magazines were not willing to let go, history was pushed to the heart of the struggle. As the head of the design department, Dai Wei naturally knew that the main problem was him. If history could not produce high-quality clothes, it would not be long before Zhe Ling completely surpassed them. When it came to being anxious, no one was more anxious than Dai Wei. What do you want to say? Suddenly, Ning Xuelua turned around and looked at Dai Wei sharply. Boss. Actually, the design department has recently. Dai Wei was about to explain but was immediately interrupted by Ning Xuelua. I don't need your explanation. I only care about the results. Ning Shuelua's voice was very cold. Ziling's new models are getting more and more popular, which is a big blow to history. More than half of the market share has been taken by Ziling, and what is your design department doing? That's right. At the end of the day, it was the design department that caused all this trouble and pushed history to the forefront. All the responsibilities of the design department should be shouldered by you. The design director, Dai Wei, one of the higher-ups said. Dai Wei glared at the man before turning to look at Ning Shueluo. His heart was filled with worry. Is there any news about the person I asked you to find? Ning Shueluo asked again. Dai Wei knew who Ning Shueluo was looking for. Chapter 1162. However, now that things had come to this, he had no choice but to compromise. Otherwise, if history was finished, he would really be finished. Boss, I know how to find Han Xiao. Give me 2 days. However, even if we contact Han Xiao, it's hard to say if he will come to help us. Dai Wei could be considered to have a slight understanding of Han Xiao. It would not be easy to invite someone who did not play by the rules to attack Ziling in history. As long as he has the ability, we can give him any conditions, Ning Shueluo said directly. All right, boss, I'll do it now. Dai Wei nodded and turned to leave. Walking out of the headquarters of history, Dai Wei took out his phone and checked his contact list for a moment before making a call. Hey, Dai Wei, what brings you here? A clear voice came from the other end of the phone. Jill, I have a favor to ask of you, Dai Wei said. Oh, there's something that you, the great designer Dai, need to ask of your little brother. What is it? Jill, do you remember that Italian Chinese, the one called Han Xiao? Dai Wei went straight to the point and told him why he was looking for Han Xiao. After Han Xiao's name came out of Dai Wei's mouth, the other end of the phone fell silent. After a long time, a voice came from the phone. Dai Wei, Han Xiao and I were once classmates. He studied design, but it was just a moment of novelty. You don't understand that lunatic at all. You must stay away from him. Dai Wei, I'm not joking with you. Jill, that lunatic, what did he do? Dai Wei could hear the fear on the other side of the phone when Han Xiao was mentioned. That lunatic, Han Xiao, is a taboo in the underworld of several countries. You'll never be able to imagine it. That lunatic once offended a mafia in Italy. That mafia sent over 100 people to kill Han Xiao, but in the end, all of them went missing, and they still haven't been able to find them. Dai Wei was taken aback when he heard that. Do you think that's the end? No, that pervert. On the second night, the mafia was destroyed. A few of the bosses and higher-ups were all fucking dead in the villa. It was said that their organs were dug out with a scalpel, and they were stitched together. There was even a tombstone on the wall. Who did it? Could it be Han Xiao? Dai Wei's entire body trembled. That's hard to say. The underground forces all say that it was that madman who did it, but no one has any evidence. If it's really Han Xiao, only God knows how he managed to destroy an entire mafia organization in just one night, and even get rid of those bosses and the higher-ups. At this moment, Dai Wei felt a chill in his heart. He swore that he absolutely did not want to have anything to do with Han Xiao. However, he couldn't explain to Ning Shueluo, so he still had to find Han Xiao. Jill, do you still have Han Xiao's contact information? Dai Wei sighed. All right, Dai Wei, I'll give you his contact details. Han Xiao stared at the seat in front of him. Order whatever you want to eat and pay for it yourself. There's no need. I just ate before I came. Dai Wei smiled. Dai Wei, right? I have some impression of you. Why are you looking for me? Just say it. I don't like to beat around the bush. After Han Xiao finished speaking, he finished the chicken in his hand. He still looked like he wanted to continue. All right, brother Han Xiao, it's like this. I'm currently working at history. Our boss knows about your capabilities, so he wants you to help out at history. Dai Wei didn't dare to beat around the bush with this person in front of him, so he directly stated his intentions. Chapter 1164. Go buy me some drumsticks first. I'm not full yet. Han Xiao stared at Dai Wei. Okay. Dai Wei immediately stood up and went to the front desk to order 5 New Orleans drumsticks. After paying, he brought them back and carefully placed them in front of Han Xiao. You said I'm not interested, Han Xiao said to Dai Wei while gnawing on a drumstick. Dai Wei was speechless. You've already finished all the drumsticks I bought, 5 of them, and now you're saying you're not interested? Brother Han Xiao, our boss said that as long as you help us suppress Zealing, we can negotiate any conditions you want, Dai Wei hurriedly said when he saw Han Xiao's refusal. Zealing. Han Xiao had a thoughtful look on his face. Boss, Han Xiao has been found. He's right beside you. Okay, I'll put him on speaker. You can talk to him yourself. Dai Wei immediately called Ning Xuelua and turned it on speaker. In the next second, a gentle female voice came from the phone. Hello, Mr. Han. I remember. Didn't I just tell you that I'm not interested? Han Xiao's face was expressionless as his cold gaze fell on Dai Wei. Dai Wei's hair stood on end when he was stared at by Han Xiao. Without thinking, he hung up the phone without giving Ning Xuelua a chance to speak. I'm sorry. Dai Wei's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Although Han Xiao's expression was calm, Dai Wei felt out of breath when Han Xiao glanced at him. Is everything okay? Han Xiao said lightly. Yes. Brother Han Xiao, eat first. Call me if there's anything. Oh no, text me. Dai Wei turned around and left the KFC after saying that. Han Xiao sucked on his fingers after finishing the drumstick, then left for the history headquarters. Wait, what are you looking at? I'm talking to you. Downstairs at the history headquarters, several security guards stopped Han Xiao, who was wearing a tight sports suit. You know where this place is, and you dare to barge in? One of the security guards pointed at Han Xiao with an electric baton. The history headquarters wasn't a place that anyone could enter. Their big boss was the famous movie star Ning Xuelua. Countless reporters and paparazzi tried to sneak in every day. Take your toy away. When the security guard pointed the electric baton at Han Xiao, an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. His originally clear eyes began to change. Look at you. You look like a girl. Hurry up and leave. The security guard said impatiently. Han Xiao ignored the security guards. With a slight movement of his feet, he bypassed the security guards and headed straight for History's headquarters. Are you fucking deaf? Where did this dog come from? You're courting death. The security guards were furious. A few days ago, the higher-ups had said that during this period of time, the media and fashion magazines could not be allowed in, especially strangers. Seeing that Han Xiao, who was dressed in sportswear, was ignoring them, one of the security guards raised his electric baton and swung it at Han Xiao. These security guards also had a set of systems. When dealing with such people, they couldn't hit their heads. If something happened, they wouldn't be able to absolve themselves from the blame, so they had to hit their bodies. Whoosh! A whooshing sound could be heard as the electric baton went down. The force was not small. Bang! In the next second, the security guard who hit Han Xiao was completely stunned on the spot. Han Xiao didn't even turn his head. He lightly pointed a finger behind him and blocked the electric baton. She lowered her arm, turned around to face Han Xiao, and said with a smile, Mr. Han Xiao, I've heard a lot about you. I believe that Mr. Han Xiao has already obtained some information from Dai Wei. I can repeat it now. I'm listening. Han Xiao lowered his hat as if he was about to fall asleep. Mr. Han Xiao, let me introduce myself first. My name is Ning Xuelua, and I'm the boss of History. History is a high-end luxury clothing brand, and I personally admire Mr. Han Xiao's designs. Therefore, I would like to hire Mr. Han Xiao as a design consultant for History with a high salary. Ning Xuelua went straight to the point. Chapter 1166. Oh, is there no one in History's design department? Han Xiao sat on Ning Xuelua's chair, his legs crossed on the expensive desk. He looked at Dai Wei with a faint smile. Dai Wei felt embarrassed when he heard Han Xiao's words. He was the boss of the design department. However, Dai Wei did not dare to get angry at Han Xiao. He could only smile and let Han Xiao say whatever he wanted. To be honest, Mr. Han, History's design department has been lacking in inspiration recently. Our market share has been overtaken by our biggest rival, Zealing. Otherwise, we wouldn't have thought of troubling you. Ning Xuelua didn't try to hide anything. The most important thing now was to defeat Zhe Ling. Everything else could be discussed. It was understandable that talented people were eccentric, as long as they had the ability. Zhe Ling, Han Xiao murmured. He had done some research on Zhe Ling's clothing. The designer was indeed a genius. From the appearance to the charm of the clothing, everything was perfect. In this aspect alone, Zhe Ling had already surpassed history. Today's history was only able to compete with Zhe Ling because it had become famous earlier, so consumers had a preconceived notion of what it was. Furthermore, history's previous works had supported the media's earlier hype and exposure, so history could still compete with Zhe Ling. Otherwise, Zhe Ling would have left history in the dust. To put it bluntly, it was a company on the brink of collapse. Although on the surface, it seemed to be very confident, as time passed, history would be completely trampled under Zhe Ling's feet. This was only a matter of time. The designer of Zhe Ling was indeed a genius. Such a person and his work could indeed make Han Zhao's blood boil. Although he had only learned fashion design because he was bored, he was willing to continue playing as long as there was something that piqued his interest, regardless of the field. Seeing Han Xiao pondering for a long time, Ning Xuelua smiled and asked, "Mr. Han, do you have any understanding of the Zhe Ling brand?" Han Xiao did not answer Ning Xuelua's question. In his mind, a few pieces of Zhe Ling's shop that night appeared. They were classical and elegant, with a special oriental flavor and charm. And those few pieces of art had inspired him a lot of creative inspiration. If it were him, he would completely tear this special Eastern charm into pieces, break the shackles of the secular world, and create a feast of death and darkness. Zhe Ling, I'm actually quite interested. Han Xiao straightened his hat, and a trace of scorching light emerged in his eyes. He had told Ning Shi the other night that the designer in Zhe Ling was not as good as him, but that woman did not believe him and made sarcastic remarks about him. Now he might as well do some exercise and compete with the genius designer in Zhe Ling to see whose work was full of irresistible magic. Ning Xuelua's eyes lit up as she sized up the handsome man in front of her. Does this mean that there's a chance? Mr. Han, if it's possible, I would like to hire you as the chief designer of history. Ning Xuelua looked at Han Xiao and smiled gently. Boss. Dai Wei's expression changed. He wanted to say something, but Ning Xuelua shot him a look. Dai Wei's face darkened. He had finally managed to invite Han Xiao over after much difficulty, but he did not expect that his boss, Ning Xuelua, would want Han Xiao to take his position. They had agreed that he was only here to save them in an emergency. Notice. Sorry, babies. All sorts of things have piled up today, and the computer crashed. Update this chapter first, don't wait for me today. This? Ningxi hesitated and secretly glanced at the great demon king. The point was that she didn't know how long she would have to kneel on the washboard. Should she go or not? The calmer the great demon king was, the more scared she was. Woo-woo. Chapter 1168. Xiaoxi, you must come this time. If we don't thank you for this, our family will feel bad. Of course, it's not just about what happened the night before yesterday. My dad told my mom about a lot of things that happened recently. My mom took a leave from the army and rushed home overnight just to see you. Zhuang Ku said eagerly. Even Ku-er's mother came back? It was said that Madame Zhuang's work was very confidential, and she only came back a few times a year. Actually, you really don't have to go through so much trouble. It's just a small matter. We're friends. Do you still need to thank me for helping you? Besides, you've helped me before. Ningxi said. Xiaoxi, what I've done for you is nothing. It's not even a small matter. Anyway, this is definitely necessary. If you don't come, our family will feel bad. Zhuang Ku said seriously. Zhuang Ku had already said this much, and Madame Zhuang had also asked for leave. Ningxi thought about it and decided that she couldn't refuse, so she could only say, okay, I got it. I'll be there. Then it's settled. I'll wait for you. Zhuang Ku hung up happily. After hanging up the phone, Ningxi immediately ran to the kitchen and found a washboard. She thought it wasn't enough, So she found a durian out of nowhere and quickly returned to the great demon king. Ningxi held the washboard in one hand and the durian in the other as she stood in front of Lu Tingxiao with her little head raised. Her little expression was as flattering as it could be. Sweetheart, choose one. As long as you can calm down. Lu Tingxiao's face was still expressionless. His eyes swept over the washboard and durian in the girl's hands, and then his eyebrows twitched as if he was about to collapse. You think this is enough? This is not enough. Ningxi was suddenly struck by a bolt from the blue. Her face was full of despair. Then, she threw away the things in her hands and used her killer move. With a cry, she hugged the calf of the little bun next to her. Bun, save me. Mama? Xiaobao tilted his head in confusion. Although he didn't know why Mummy wanted him to save her, he still firmly hugged his mother. His little eyes could be said to be fiercely staring at Papa, as if he was protecting him. Do you know what she did wrong? Lu Tingxiao looked at his son and said coldly. Little steamed bun first glanced at Mama, then immediately continued to put on a fierce expression towards Papa without hesitation. It was a completely my mama is right, and wrong is also right posture. Ningxi, on the other hand, continued to hold the steamed bun and refused to let go. Lu Tingxiao, looking at the mother and son, Lu Tingxiao's cold expression finally broke. He pinched his eyebrows and said, All right, I already know about this. Hearing this, Ningxi was stunned. Huh, what did the great demon king mean? You already knew? Ningxi's eyes widened. You think you hit it well? Lu Tingxiao looked at her condescendingly. Ningxi immediately climbed up the pole and flattered, Sweetheart, you really love me. My acting skills are so good, but you actually saw through it with one look. Lu Tingxiao gave her a sidelong glance. Practice makes perfect. Ningxi, cough. She had made enough mistakes that practice makes perfect. Ningxi looked at him for a long time and couldn't help teasing. If you had dressed like this before, would your girlfriend have run away with another man? Zhuang Rongguang was a little embarrassed by Ningxi's teasing. Sister Shi, don't expose my dark history. Did I? I was clearly praising your handsomeness. Ha ha ha, really? Seeing the appearance of her good-for-nothing son, Meng Linlong's heart was filled with mixed feelings. She looked at Ningxi with even more gratitude. You talk first. There are 2 dishes in the kitchen. Hearing this, Zhuang Rongguang immediately stretched out his hand and wailed, Mom, don't go. I beg you. Let the nanny do it. Chapter 1170. Meng Linlang said unhappily, There are guests at home. Of course, I have to cook 2 dishes to show my sincerity. It's because there are guests at home. Those who know you are thanking them, but those who don't will think you are going to hate them. Zhuang Rongguang muttered. Meng Linlang immediately glared at him. Although her eyes were full of anger, they were full of love. You brat. Ku Er whispered in Ningxi's ear with a smile. My mother's cooking is not very good, I see. Ningxi looked at the interaction between Madame Zhuang and the child, and her eyes flashed a trace of admiration that even she herself was not aware of. Stausi, play with Ku Er and Rongguang for a while. The food will be ready soon. Okay, you go ahead. Don't worry about me. After a while, the food was ready. On the round dining table, the entire Zhuang family was gathered together, which was rare. Zhuang Liaoyuan held a glass of wine and took the lead to stand up. Xiaoxi, I toast you. Ningxi was immediately flattered and stood up with a glass of wine. Sister Shi, I also want to toast you. Cheers, you can drink as you like. You are a girl, don't drink too much. Zhuang Rongguang said and drank the wine in his glass. Ningxi shook her head and laughed. Finally, he knew she was a girl. Then Zhuang Ku Er and Meng Linlang also toasted her. The last one was Old Chief Zhuang. Before the old chief stood up, Ningxi hurriedly stood up. Old sir, if you do this, I will be embarrassed. The host and guest were happy during the meal. Probably because the hostess of the family was back, the whole atmosphere was much warmer. During the dinner, The more Meng Linlang talked to Ning Shi, the more she liked Ning Shi. She even compared her two biological children with Ning Shi. Before leaving, she took Ning Shi's hand and gave her a lot of gifts she brought back. She almost gave her the emerald bracelet on her wrist, but Ning Shi refused firmly. She only left some local products. But this was already impressive enough. In the end, Zhuang Liaoyuan sent guards to send her back. After Ning Shi left, in the master bedroom, Meng Linlang looked at her husband and muttered, "Is Xiaoxi really Lingyu's daughter?" "Yes, I've already checked. There's no mistake." Zhuang Liaoyuan lit a cigarette and said with certainty. Meng Linlang's eyes turned cold. "I didn't expect that your silly sister could give birth to such a good daughter. Fortunately, I grew up in the countryside. If I had been raised by her side, who knows what I would have become." "Stop talking." Zhuang Liaoyuan sighed. "I feel there's something strange about Cici being kicked out of the Ning family, and it's probably related to that adopted daughter." Meng Linlang murmured and then asked, "What's Grandpa's plan? Should he take it back? The Ning family doesn't know what's good and what's bad. It's fine if we don't know, but we can't just ignore it, right?" The old master still can't get over what happened in the past, but he still likes Ningxi very much. He told me to take good care of her. Zhuang Liaoyuan said, "Of course we should take good care of her. We take care of Ningxi not because Ningxi was born in her belly, but because we really like her. There's nothing to worry about." Hearing his wife's words, Zhuang Liaoyuan suddenly saw the light. "You're right." Meng Linlang looked worried. "You're a man. What do you know about taking care of her? You even want to recruit a beautiful girl into the army. How could you think of that? The report I submitted should be approved this time. When I come back, I'll take care of it." Zhuang Liaoyuan chuckled. "Thank you, madam." Chapter 1171. After returning from the Zhuang family, Ningxi immediately went to Platinum Palace to keep Big and Little Bun's company. The next day, the family of three went to Ocean Park together. After a short break, they immediately threw themselves into the path of earning money. During this period of time, Zailing had been progressing at a tremendous pace. In terms of market share, it had already begun to surpass history. However, history was being doubted by the media and the public. Ever since the few stunning and famous works that made history famous, history began to go downhill. After that, the new designs that were released one after another could not reach the quality of the famous works. Some of them even copied their own famous works, which made the consumers very dissatisfied. On the other hand, history's biggest rival, Zailing, continued to work hard. Almost every once in a while, there would be a new item on the shelves. From the design and quality of the clothing, it was very balanced, which also won Zailing many loyal fans. In the comments section of history's official Weibo, there would be people questioning history almost every day. This caused a large number of loyal fans to be dissatisfied and even insult them. Zailing is nothing. It's just a knockoff that imitates history's design concept. To the top of the commenter, if it wasn't for history's stunning debut and opening up the market, Zailing would not even exist now. Every industry has a bottleneck. Designers are not gods. Inspiration takes time to gather. What a bunch of trash. Are they all hired by Zailing? What do you mean by history plagiarizing Zailing's design ideas? Do you even know that when history became famous, Zailing was still nowhere to be found? In my opinion, plagiarism is true, but it was Zailing who plagiarized history's design ideas. History was magnanimous enough to let it go, and now they even dare to make a false accusation. What a trashy brand. Only a trashy person would like a trashy brand like Zailing. I think it's better to speak with facts. History's first few famous works were indeed stunning. They allowed history to easily take over the market and build a brand. But look at the old designs that Zailing released earlier. They are indeed very similar to history's famous works, but they have more charm. This is something that history didn't manage to do. Maybe the plagiarism is not groundless. After all, plagiarism doesn't depend on whose brand is famous first. To the top of the commenter, you must be Zailing. If you type these words, Zailing will give you a lot of money. Penthouse plus 10,086. What a joke. History's group of brainless fans are like mad dogs, biting whoever they catch. They have no sense at all, biting whoever they catch. Hee hee, I laughed. I just want to tell Zhe Ling that I bought a watch last year. You Zealing idiots are purebred idiots. Chapter 1172. Dai Wei didn't want to have any contact with Han Xiao, so he rarely went to the design department. Ning Shualua knew how to strike while the iron was hot. Most of the netizens on the internet thought that Zhe Ling was plagiarizing. If Han Xiao could design high-quality clothes during this time, he might have a chance to crush Zhe Ling. Follow me to the design department. Ning Shualua walked straight out of the office and headed to the design department. Dai Wei had no choice but to follow Ning Shualua. A moment later, in the design department of history, the originally snow-white wall had been messily drawn by Han Xiao with a brush, and these drawings were all very difficult to understand. Mr. Han Xiao, when can you show me your work? Ning Shualua stared at Han Xiao, who was sitting on the office chair, and asked with a smile. Han Xiao raised his cap and ignored Ning Shualua. He only glanced at the drawings on the table. Ning Shualua got the signal and immediately walked forward. She spread out the drawings and looked at them carefully. A moment later, Ning Shualua's eyes glowed with surprise. There were a total of 10 blueprints, each of which represented the 10 components of the clothing. If one were to look at them individually, they would look very ordinary, and there was nothing eye-catching about them. However, after the 10 blueprints were combined, Han Zhao's clothing finally appeared in Ning Shualua and Dai Wei's eyes. This was a complete blueprint, and its contents seemed to have an irresistible charm. Just a single glance would cause one to be completely immersed in it. Darkness, pain, and death. The overall artistic style is supernatural, forming an inexplicable sense of decadence. The details of the writing add witchcraft, the abyss, the dark night, curses, loneliness, and despair. It makes people feel like they have gone to the Avicii hell. Dai Wei looked at the completed blueprints seriously, and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. This was a completely different style of dark elements, bringing the foreign elements to the extreme. However, this kind of dark style was not unacceptable. Whether it was the color processing or the details, it could be said to be perfect. Even if an ordinary woman wore this kind of clothes, her temperament would definitely be greatly enhanced. That inexplicable coldness would probably increase an invisible and strong aura. It's so beautiful. Most importantly, it was too special and eye-catching. It was definitely in line with the mentality of the masses. A glint flashed across Ning Shualua's eyes. She had seen similar designs like Han Zhao's in the market, which were designed with darkness and death as the main theme. But to put it bluntly, they were all claptrap. From the overall design point of view, it would make people feel uncomfortable and a little fearful, not to mention that no one would actually wear them. On the other hand, the one Han Xiao designed had a completely different feeling. Although it was filled with a strong color of despair, it didn't have the slightest hint of blood. On the contrary, it had an extremely noble and ancient flavor of the mysterious Eastern culture. Even Ning Shualuo herself could not help but want to possess him. How long have you been working on it? Ning Shualuo reluctantly withdrew her gaze and looked at Han Xiao as she asked. What's the meaning of this question? Han Xiao asked. I'm just curious, said Ning Shualuo. Then hold back your curiosity. Han Zhao's face was expressionless, but there was a bone-piercing chill in his eyes. Chapter 1173. Han Zhao's attitude made Ning Shualuo unhappy, but Han Xiao was not Dai Wei, nor was he an employee of history. Furthermore, she still had to borrow Han Zhao's hand to send Zhe Ling into the abyss, so she could only endure it for now. Hee hee, Mr. Han, please don't mind me. I was just asking. I admire Mr. Han Zhao's design very much, so I plan to mass-produce it. Ning Shualuo looked at the design again. After a few breaths, Ning Shualuo frowned. She didn't pay much attention to it before, but now she found an obvious flaw. A part of Rakshas's design was missing some limbs. Mr. Han Xiao, there are some flaws in your design. Ning Shualua placed the design in front of Han Xiao and pointed out the flaw. Upon seeing this, Han Xiao stood up. His emotionless eyes fell on Ning Shualuo. For some reason, Ning Shualuo's entire body stiffened when Han Xiao sized her up. How can a rookie like you who doesn't know shit understand what a flaw is? The corners of Han Xiao's mouth rose slightly, forming a devilish smile. There is no such thing as a perfect design. Perfection is itself imperfect. Since that is the case, why should we rack our brains and pretend to be as perfect as possible? Yes, yes, yes. Brother Han Xiao is absolutely right. The boss is just concerned about Brother Han Xiao. Don't take it to heart. Haha. Dai Wei felt a chill in his heart. Even if he offended Ning Shualua, he wouldn't dare to offend Han Xiao. Moreover, the boss wasn't proficient in this field, and he actually went to question Han Xiao's work. When the time came, this lunatic Han Xiao would be provoked, and then she would know what a flaw was. What she was most afraid of most was that when the time came, the innocent would be harmed, and she would also be ruined by Han Xiao. Brother Han Xiao's design must be trying to express that perfection is a kind of beauty, and that the simple acknowledgement of flaws is a kind of beauty. Dai Wei flattered with a smile. What do you know? Han Xiao lowered his cap again. It's just that I'm too lazy to continue designing flaws. Hearing that, Dai Wei's face darkened. He felt extremely awkward. This Han Xiao was too direct. Then, Mr. Han, what do you mean? Ning Shualua asked tentatively. Ning Shualua didn't know what to do either. Even if it was a little damaged, it couldn't stop the charm of the clothes. However, she didn't know what Han Xiao meant. This person's personality was too strange. History can produce these clothes, but the quantity cannot exceed 50, Han Xiao said faintly. 50? Limited? My works are meant for appreciation, not for profit. Do you understand? Han Xiao said coldly. All right, I understand. We'll produce 50 of them first. Ning Shualua thought about it and finally agreed. In any case, as long as Han Xiao stayed in their company, there would definitely be a lot of such works in the future. Even if the quantity was small, it was nothing. Instead, it would greatly improve the quality of history. Mr. Han Xiao, may I know what this robe should be called? Ning Shualua asked before leaving. Black Faith. This was Han Xiao's reply. Very soon, the Black Faith created by Han Xiao was finally produced by history. There were no more, no less, a total of 50 pieces. As for the first Black Faith, it was Ning Shualuo's personal collection. Following that, Ning Shualua invited major fashion magazines and influential fashion media to visit history's latest works. Chapter 1174. Black Faith seemed to have a special magic. Each piece had a different color and style. Once the media released it, all the socialites in the capital went to history, intending to buy it. However, history released the news that only 50 pieces of Black Faith would be produced. It was a limited edition and would not be sold for the time being. In just a few days, the price of each piece of Black Faith had reached 7 digits. Moreover, because of Black Faith, history's turnover had increased greatly, making history popular. Now, the limited edition of Black Faith was pushed to first place on Weibo's hot search list. Since the release of Black Faith, Zhe Ling had been slandered even more. Zhe Ling, what a joke. Saying that history has run out of talent and can't design a decent work, did you guys eat Black Faith? My history is ready to go. No wonder people don't bother with Zhe Ling. They're not on the same level at all. Do you understand Black Faith? A 7-digit price, limited to 50 pieces worldwide. Do you understand? History is the real sentiment. If Black Faith was mass-produced, what would you Zhe Ling do? I feel sorry for my history, being bitten by Zhe Ling's dog. You don't know how to be grateful. History's internet water army, don't be too full of yourself. Black Faith is indeed very good, but no one can tell what will happen in the future. Zhe Ling's dog, don't talk nonsense. Where's the dog that said history has run out of talent? Isn't it coming out to bite us now? Zhe Ling is too shameless. She exudes a disgusting smell. Not only did she plagiarize history's famous work, She even said that history has run out of talent. With the release of Black Faith, this is a slap in the face. Pa pa pa. This time, history's fans were really arrogant for a long time after the production of Black Faith. Zheiling's momentum was quickly suppressed. Almost half of the fans even shouted for Zheling to quickly design a new product and sell Black Faith. Otherwise, they would become anti-fans. Zheiling's office. Ningxi stared at Black Faith in the fashion magazine and couldn't help but frown. Impossible. Gong Shangzi stared at the magazine in his hand. Dai Wei could never design such a work. What do you mean? Ningxi heard something from Gong Shangzi's words. If Dai Wei had this ability, would he still need to steal Gong Shangzi's work? I don't know either. Gong Shangzi shook his head, his face full of doubt, but I can be sure that Dai Wei would not have this ability. I think that someone is helping history. Whether or not someone is helping history, Black Faith already exists. This is a fatal blow to us. Recently, history's market share has surpassed ours. If this continues, it's definitely not a good thing, Ningxi said in a low voice. Isn't it just Black Creed? Director Gong, you designed White Faith and completely defeated history. Han Momo stepped forward and made a cup of coffee for Ningxi. Then, she looked at Gong Shangzi and encouraged him. It's not easy. A cold glint flashed in Gong Shangzi's eyes. It's no coincidence that Black Faith is so popular. This piece of clothing uses the mysterious dark elements of the ancient East and perfectly incorporates Buddhism's life, death, and reincarnation. It can already be considered a top-grade item. Hearing that, Han Momo was a little surprised. Was Black Faith so powerful? Even Gong Shangzi said it would be very difficult to surpass him. Chapter 1175. Moreover, these clothes are completely aimed at our Zheling. They are two completely different extreme styles. Using one extreme style to crush the other extreme style. Just who is this person? Gong Shangzi clenched his fists tightly. Ningxi didn't know much about fashion design, but as a woman, she knew how to appreciate it. She had to say that she liked the overall style of Black Faith very much. If it wasn't produced by history, she would find a way to buy one. Boss, give me some time. Gong Shangzi looked serious. I believe you. Ningxi smiled. This time, it seemed that Gong Shangzi had met his match. However, it wasn't a bad thing to have an opponent. Only with an opponent could one make breakthroughs and progress. However, Ningxi was very curious as to which great Buddha history had invited to help them deal with Zheling. According to Gong Shangzi, Black Faith was completely aimed at Zheling. It wanted to defeat Zheling with extreme style. After leaving the company, Ningxi was a little annoyed and wanted to find something to vent her troubled thoughts. She didn't know if it was because of Black Faith, but a person flashed in Ningxi's mind, a person whose temperament was incomparably compatible with Black Faith. So, she dialed a number. What's up? A lazy voice came from the phone. What are you doing? Ningxi asked with a smile. Nothing. Abstinence. Practicing martial arts. Ningxi, Han Xiao, speak properly or I'll slap you in the face. Ningxi couldn't help but scold him. How much do you hate your hand? Aren't you afraid of breaking it? Don't talk nonsense. Come and teach me a few moves, Ningxi said. Is this the favor you got last time? No. It wasn't easy for this guy to owe someone a favor. How could he pay it back so easily? Oh, then I won't go. Don't be stingy. I'll treat you to KFC. Where are you? I'll be right there. Ningxi, if someone was willing to treat him to a meal, Han Xiao would definitely come as promised. He wouldn't be late for even half a second, not to mention it was his favorite KFC. Looking at Han Xiao's table manners and appetite, Ningxi shook her head secretly. God gave him such a beautiful face for nothing. Give me 5 more New Orleans grilled chicken wings. Han Xiao said, still not satisfied. Stop eating. I'll take you to a good place. Without waiting for Han Xiao to finish eating, Ningxi pulled Han Xiao up and stuffed him into the car. A moment later, at the Taekwondo dojo, Han Xiao looked at those flowery but impractical moves in bewilderment. This is the good place you told me about? Come, Great God, quickly teach me a few moves. Ningxi had a look of worship on her face. Although this Han Xiao was a lunatic, his battle prowess was unquestionable. Damn it. Every time she trained with second senior brother, she was despised in all kinds of ways. She must come up with a killer move or two to counterattack. I'm not interested in fighting in front of these trash. Han Xiao didn't buy it at all and sat lazily on the ground. Brat, who are you calling trash? In the next second, a few burly students quickly walked forward. The one who spoke was a fatty. Looking at his size, he looked like he couldn't even beat 100 kilograms. I'm sorry, my friend was just joking, Ningxi explained. It's none of your business. The fatty stepped forward and pushed Ningxi away. Brat, I'm asking you a question. Who did you call trash just now? The few of them surrounded Han Xiao. At this moment, Han Xiao's face was filled with confusion. His gaze swept across the surroundings before landing on the tall and fat student, and he said, I'm not targeting anyone. I'm just saying that everyone here is trash, not just you. Don't be angry. Chapter 1176. Are you fucking courting death? The fat student was enraged and lifted Han Xiao up from the ground. This bastard. How dare he act in front of a woman? You idiot. I'll slap you so hard that even your mother won't recognize you. Seeing that Han Xiao was lifted up, a few students cursed loudly. Seeing this, Ningxi covered her face with her hands. This guy was too good at stirring up trouble. Fatty, listen to me and let go of me. Han Xiao smiled at the tall and fat student. Who are you calling fatty? I'll kill you with one punch, you idiot. The fat student was furious. Fatty, do you believe that I can beat you to death with a single finger? The smile on Han Xiao's face disappeared. You're fucking courting death. The fat student threw a punch at Han Xiao's face. However, before the punch could reach Han Xiao, a finger flashed past. Before Han Xiao's finger reached Han Xiao, the force of the finger blew the fat student's hair up. The finger landed on the fat student's lower abdomen. The students who were watching the commotion did not know what had happened, but they saw the fat student, who weighed at least 200 kilograms, fly out. Bang! The fat student fell to the ground with both hands clutching his lower abdomen, crying out in pain. See, I've already told you, but you didn't believe me. This fat kid can't take a beating. Han Xiao sat back on the ground and laughed. Seeing this, everyone in the Taekwondo dojo was completely dumbfounded. That man who looked like a woman really used one finger to send that tall and fat student flying with one finger? What kind of monster is that guy? He used one finger to send Wei Chang flying? Martial arts? Inner force? Fuck. Don't tell me this is a fucking time travel from ancient times. Have you watched too many TV dramas? What the fuck? This small body actually has such a huge explosive force. Could it be force? Force? What force? You don't understand. I read it in an ancient book. Humans cultivate their strength, and then they cultivate their form. When the form reaches the extreme, it becomes martial arts. Only when the martial arts reach the extreme will there be strength. There are things like hidden strength, peak strength, and the cultivation of qi. A middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s explained, Fuck, Brother Liang, don't make it sound so magical. Is there really such a thing? You brats are so short-sighted. Of course there is. How could it be fake? It's just that you guys don't know about it. The middle-aged man shook his head. TSK, what ancient books? Brother Liang, you must be reading martial arts novels. Okay. Pretend I didn't say anything. You guys are awesome. Go fight him. The middle-aged man shrugged. Hearing this, the group of students shook their heads. Even the tall and fat student, Wei Chang, was sent flying with a single finger. Who would dare to fight him? Sorry. I'm really sorry. Chapter 1177. Hee hee, hero. Why don't you go to heaven? Ningxi rolled her eyes at Han Xiao and dragged him out of the car. Pointing at a wall, she sneered. If you have the ability, be fierce to it. Prove it to me, big. Before Ningxi could finish, Han Zhao's palm flashed. There was a loud bang. Ningxi stared at the wall that was smashed into ruins by Han Zhao's palm, completely stunned. One palm smashed a wall into pieces. Part of the wall turned into powder and floated in the air like snow. Ningxi, I kneel before the hero. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Ningxi could swear to God that she had only seen such power in novels. Only in novels. If she didn't already have a second senior brother, Ningxi would definitely worship this lunatic as her master. Tut, in fact, I can worship second senior brother. Ningxi thought to herself, but she could only think about it. This guy's moves were probably not something an ordinary person could learn. At most, she could learn 1 or 2 moves to save her life. Do you have a grudge against this wall? Han Xiao withdrew his palm and looked at Ningxi in confusion. No grudge. Ningxi shook her head blankly. No grudge? Then why did you ask me to hit the wall? You're crazy. Han Xiao turned and walked into the car. Ningxi, who the fuck was the one that was sick? She was just joking. How would she know that he would really hit it? Wasn't he the crazy one? Hee hee, hero, what do you want to eat tonight? As long as you can tell me, I'll treat you. And teach me a few moves. Ningxi cursed in her heart, but she put on a fawning smile. As soon as she finished speaking, Ningxi's phone suddenly rang. It was Gong Shangzi. Ningxi's face immediately turned serious. I got it. I'll go back now. I hope this time we can suppress the black faith in history. Ningxi dropped the words and hung up. Ningxi's words naturally fell into Han Zhao's ears. You know about black faith too? Han Xiao suddenly became spirited. Of course. Ningxi didn't hide anything from Han Xiao. I'm Zailing's boss. Recently, history released Black Creed, and it had a huge impact on our company. Forget it. You wouldn't understand even if I told you. Han Zhao's eyes widened as he looked at Ningxi in astonishment. You're Zailing's boss? Is there a need to be so surprised? Ningxi snapped. Why didn't you say so earlier? I was the one who designed Black Faith. How is it? Not bad, right? Han Xiao crossed his legs in the car and smiled proudly. You made it. All the famous products in the world were made by you. Great God. Ningxi glanced at Han Xiao. How could she believe him? I really designed it, Han Xiao said seriously. I know, you designed it. Ningxi nodded with a straight face, very cooperative. I'm serious. Han Xiao was not stupid. He knew that Ningxi obviously did not believe him. If you continue to brag to me, believe it or not, I will push you out. Ningxi gritted her teeth and directly opened the door. She was already annoyed by this matter, but this guy kept mentioning it. Black Faith, it's really me. Before Han Xiao could finish his words, he was pushed out of the car by Ningxi. Han Xiao knocked on the car window, his face full of confusion. It's really me, whoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Ningxi stepped on the accelerator and disappeared, leaving only Han Xiao, who was eating dust on the side of the road. Chapter 1178. Zeiling Headquarters. When Ningxi arrived, Gong Shangzi was having a heated discussion with Master Song Jin. Ever since Song Jin agreed to cooperate, she had been researching new products with Gong Shangzi. However, due to the sudden appearance of Black Faith in history, the two had to make some changes to the original design in order to deal with it. Old Song, you're here. Seeing Song Jin, Ningxi quickly greeted her. Song Jin nodded. I already know about Black Faith. What do you think, Old Song? Ningxi asked Song Jin's opinion. It's not bad. It's very artistic. However, since it's a contest of style, it's not like we can't do anything about it. Song Jin smiled, looking confident. Gong Shangzi's face was also full of excitement. He led Ningxi to the sample room. Boss, take a look at this. There were countless different kinds of clothes in the sample room. It was dazzling. However, the moment Ningxi stepped in, there was only one left in her sight. Looking at the white dress that was surrounded by fairy clouds, Ningxi was stunned for a few seconds before she reacted. She could not hide the surprise and excitement in her tone. "This is." Song Jian touched the beard on his chin and said meaningfully, "This is Goddess Luo." "Goddess Luo?" Ning Shi's eyes were full of understanding. "Is that the name of this dress? It's really suitable." Lines from Goddess Luo Fu instantly appeared in Ning Shi's mind. Like a graceful swan, like a swimming dragon, glorious autumn chrysanthemum, luxuriant spring pine, like a light cloud covering the moon, drifting like snow in the wind. Looking from afar, it was as bright as the sun rising in the morning. Looking closely, it was as bright as a lotus rising in waves. It was simply too suitable. This gown was named Luotian. It had a phoenix as the main pattern and was supplemented by auspicious clouds. It displayed the strong beauty of classical mythology in China. From beginning to end, it exuded a strong, immortal aura and a mysterious and distant aura. It formed a sharp contrast with black faith. Moreover, it gave people a boundless yearning, a flower, a world, a leaf, a pursuit, a song, a sigh, a lifetime for one person. In short, be it in terms of style or meaning, Goddess Luo was completely created to counter black faith. That's great. If it's this shirt, it can definitely compete with black faith, Ning Shi said excitedly. Gong Shang's expression did not relax in the slightest. He said in a low voice, "I'm afraid that the opponent has not even used his full strength. So, we still cannot let our guard down. I'm afraid that the other party will have even more powerful works later on." He had never met anyone who made him feel so threatened. He didn't know if that person was temporarily in history or if he had already been taken in by history. If it was the latter, it would be troublesome. On the other side, history headquarters. After Han Xiao returned, he did not stay idle. Instead, he took the initiative to create new clothes, which made Ning Shui Luo overjoyed. "Dai Wei, I need a large amount of cloud brocade." In the design department, Han Xiao called Dai Wei over with a fiery look in his eyes. "Yun Jin?" Dai Wei was stunned. As a designer, he naturally knew that cloud brocade was an ancient Chinese silk product. It was said to have a history of nearly 1,700 years. In ancient China, cloud brocade represented the pinnacle of fabrics. The clothes worn by the emperors of several eras were made of cloud brocade. It was extremely rare. Chapter 1179. Many of the famous brands in the world also used cloud brocade materials, but compared to the most authentic cloud brocade, it was a completely different concept. There are also diamonds, gold velvet, high-grade hybrid fiber, and old pit-type jade. Han Xiao listed a few materials in a row. Hearing Han Xiao's request, Dai Wei was completely dumbfounded. What was Han Xiao trying to do? Every single one of the materials he mentioned was extremely rare and expensive. There was no need to explain the gold velvet, diamonds, and jade. High-grade hybrid fiber was a high-tech material used in astronaut clothing. Wait a moment. I'll go talk to the boss. Dai Wei smiled apologetically and hurriedly turned around to leave. Dai Wei did not dare to offend the man in front of him. Moreover, although the things he wanted were expensive, he was not asking for them from him, but from Ning Shuilua. A moment later, Dai Wei came to Ning Shuilua's office and told her about Han Zhao's request. "I'll prepare it for him as soon as possible." Ning Shuilua agreed without hesitation. After all, Han Zhao's previous performance had already fully proven his strength. Now, Ning Shuiluo had full confidence in Han Xiao. The reason why Han Xiao asked for those materials was naturally because he wanted to make better artistic clothing. She was naturally eager to do so. Ning Shuilua was very efficient. In less than 2 days, she had gathered all the materials that Han Xiao needed. As for the price, it could be said to be sky-high, especially the jade stones. They were all high-quality ancient jade stones according to Han Zhao's requirements. After getting the materials, Han Xiao drove the irrelevant people out of the design department and went into seclusion. 3 days later, Han Xiao handed the blueprint and the materials he polished to Ning Shuilua and asked her to make the clothing according to the blueprint. Ning Shuelua spread out the blueprint. In an instant, her heart was beating violently. It looked like hell. Apart from the Azura imps, most of the designs were based on the mysterious beasts from the classic of mountains and seas. Compared to Black Faith, the level of art was higher. Mr. Han Xiao, what's the name of this clothing? Ning Shuelua was a little curious. Living beings, Han Xiao replied. Good name, but only one? Ning Shuelua asked uncertainly. If you have enough funds, you can also consider mass production of these materials, Han Xiao said with a sinister smile. Ning Shuelua immediately shook her head. The materials for these clothes were too expensive. History could not afford to mass produce them. If there was only one piece, it would be the treasure of history. Heh, Zailing, you'll be able to close soon. Ning Shuelua's lips curled up as a cold light flashed in her eyes. The production of living people would take a week. On the sixth day, Ning Shuelua released the news that history was going to announce that it was going to be the treasure of the shop, and its level was much higher than Black Faith. As soon as the news came out, the media swarmed over and waited outside History's headquarters. They all wanted to see History's treasure as soon as possible. There were even many hardcore fans of History who started a live broadcast. History's most treasured game became a hot topic on Weibo. Almost all of the fans were looking forward to it. Just Black Faith alone had already pushed History to a higher level than Black Faith. It was unimaginable. The enthusiasm of History's fans soared. They took the initiative to flame Zailing and her fans on the internet. The clamor on the internet became more and more intense, showing no signs of stopping. In the beginning, Zailing's fans would occasionally fight back. However, as time passed, they all fell into silence. There was no response from Zailing. Chapter 1180. The next morning, almost all the fashion media rushed to History's headquarters. Ning Shuelua proudly led the media to the design department. In the end, she was dumbfounded when she reached the design department. The entire design department was empty. Han Xiao and all living things were nowhere to be seen. The reporters were in an uproar as they looked at each other. CEO Ning, where's your brand's calming treasure? Could it be some kind of mysterious surprise? Probably. Get ready. While the reporters were discussing, Ning Shuelua maintained a calm expression and asked Dai Wei in a low voice, "Where is he? Doesn't he know that I'm bringing reporters here today?" Dai Wei was even more confused. I told him, and I warned him again and again. Don't worry, I'll call him now. At the same time, Zailing headquarters. Han Xiao barged into the office while a few security guards followed behind him with bruised faces, not daring to approach. Who are you looking for? Gong Shangza asked as he stared at Han Xiao warily. Ning Shi, Han Xiao said coldly. Boss, someone's looking for you. Gong Shangza glanced at the security guards behind Han Xiao, who were all badly battered. Then, without saying anything, he walked to Ning Shi's office and called her out. Boss, this person forced his way in. We couldn't stop him. One of the security guards explained. It's fine. You can leave first. Ning Shi was stunned when she saw Han Xiao. She glared at him and turned to smile at the security guards. After the security guards left, Ning Shi's face darkened. You came to my company and beat up my security guards. Is this how you treat your benefactor? Han Xiao said seriously. Miss Ning, how can you say that? I'm here to give you a gift. I'm busy. Ning Shi was really busy. She looked at Gong Shangza anxiously. Didn't History announce the treasure of the store today? Is there any news now? Gong Shangza was browsing through the computer. He looked more and more surprised by what he saw. When he heard Ning Shi's words, he immediately stopped the mouse and said in confusion, That's strange. The current news is that all the media are criticizing History for hyping things up. We went to History's headquarters and found nothing. There's no treasure at all. What? Hearing this, Ning Shi took a sip of coffee and sprayed it all on Han Zhao's face. She looked incredulous. It's said to surpass Black Faith in all aspects, but it's just hype? She had been worried the whole night and hadn't slept at all. She had prepared herself for another wave of attacks from the godly designer in history, but now she had made such a mistake. Miss Ning, I don't have history's defining treasure, but I do have Zhe Ling's defining treasure. Han Xiao silently wiped away the water stains on his face. Soon after, he opened the box in his hand and threw an extravagant dress in front of Ning Shi. Before Ning Shi could look at it, Gong Shangze leaped up and ran over with large strides. He carefully held up the gown with an expression of disbelief. So beautiful. After Ning Shi looked at it clearly, she was also stunned. This style is completely an upgraded version of Black Faith. Gong Shangze could not help but gasp. Chapter 1181. This time, the unique and classic style of Diablo was displayed to the extreme. It was definitely not something that history's previous Black Faith could be compared to. The only thing that could compare to it was probably the goddess of Luo created by Gong Shangze and the master of traditional Chinese painting, Song Jin. It's so beautiful, and this material, this is? Fuck. Diamonds? And jade? Gu Yunjin. Fuck. Gold velvet. Ning Shi was completely dumbfounded. This was the material used to make this dress, and it was already unimaginable. High-grade mixed fiber? Gong Shangze touched all living beings, and his expression changed. High-grade mixed fiber? What's that? Ning Shi asked hurriedly. Let me tell you, this material is usually used to make spacesuits for astronauts to wear when they go to space, Gong Shangze explained after a moment of silence. Ning Shi didn't know what to say. Although she wasn't a professional, she knew one thing was enough. One word was expensive. So, she immediately helped to pick up the clothes that had fallen to the ground. Then, Ning Shi seemed to have thought of something, and her gaze instantly landed on Han Xiao. Her face was as dark as the bottom of a pot, and she clenched her teeth. Han Xiao, tell me honestly, did you steal this dress from history? History even got the media here, and they kept saying that the treasure of the store would be born today. How could it be a publicity stunt? Ning Shi suspected that this piece of clothing was stolen by Han Xiao, the most precious treasure of the history store. He definitely had the ability to steal a piece of clothing. This dress? Han Xiao stared at all living beings. I made it. Ning Shi didn't believe him at all. Black Faith is also mine. This is called all living beings, Han Xiao said. Ning Shi pinched her brows, and her face was powerless. Hero, why can't we have a good chat? If Ziling's dress was stolen, would you call the police? Han Xiao narrowed his eyes, and his lips curled into a smile as he asked. Nonsense, of course I would call the police. Ning Shi said subconsciously. Then, are you saying that history is dumber than you? Even you know to call the police, but history is silent. Even when the media accused it of being a publicity stunt, it didn't say a word. Han Xiao laughed faintly. Ning Shi almost choked to death. Fuck, who are you calling stupid? Boss, if history really had such a piece of clothing stolen, it definitely wouldn't remain silent. It would definitely tell the media the truth. The value of this piece of clothing is simply too high, Gong Shangze immediately said. At the same time, the expression on his face changed slightly as he looked at Han Xiao. As they were speaking, Han Xiao's phone suddenly rang. The caller ID showed that it was Dai Wei. Han Xiao picked up the call and turned on the speakerphone. Brother Han Xiao, where did you go? Today is the press conference for All Lives. The fashion media are all at history's headquarters, but you're gone, and All Lives is also gone. In such an urgent situation, Dai Wei's voice was very gentle, without a trace of anger. He also wanted to curse at Han Xiao, but unfortunately, he did not have the guts to do so. What does that have to do with me? Han Xiao asked. Brother Han Xiao, isn't all living beings the treasure that you designed for history? Dai Wei asked weakly. Although his voice was very soft, it was enough for Ning Shi and Gong Shangze to hear him clearly. Which ear of yours heard me say that? Han Zhao's voice turned cold. No, no, no. Haha. Then our boss misunderstood. Misunderstood. All living beings is my work. I will handle it however I want to. You probably understand what I mean, Han Xiao said. Chapter 1182. I understand. I understand very well. Brother Han Zhao's all living things has nothing to do with our history. You didn't sign a contract with the boss. You can do whatever you want with it now. Dai Wei smiled apologetically and even found an excuse for Han Xiao. After Dai Wei finished speaking, Han Xiao directly hung up the phone. On the other side, Ning Shi's face was full of confusion. Thousands of horses were galloping in her heart, but she couldn't say a word. She remembered. Han Xiao did say that he was a designer, but she didn't believe it. Damn it. This violent maniac was actually a design genius even better than Gong Shangzi. Even if she was given another chance, she wouldn't believe it. This was too heaven-defying. Looking at Ning Shi's shocked and aggrieved expression, Han Xiao was finally satisfied. The Black Faith has brought quite a big shock to your Zailing. Consider all beings a small token of my appreciation. Consider it a gift to you, or a compensation. Accept it. What's with this tone of, I'm just giving you a little toy? Ning Shi glanced at the incomparably luxurious dress in her hands. This doesn't seem too appropriate. Han Xiao glanced at her. Don't worry, it's not used to repay the favor from last time. My life isn't that cheap. History definitely wouldn't dare to pursue the matter. You don't have to worry too much. Hey, since you said so, then I'll reluctantly accept it. Ning Shi said reluctantly, but her hands moved quickly to collect the dress. Momo, put the dress away properly. Although Han Zhao's tone was arrogant, she now completely believed that to him, this dress was indeed just a little toy. What's more, it was extorted from Ning Shueluo. Of course she wouldn't let it go. Gong Shangzi looked at this roller coaster that seemed to have completely exceeded his expectations. Even now, he still had a confused expression on his face. The trump card of history that they were most worried about actually knew Ning Shi and seemed to owe her a favor. Their studio's stabilizing treasure of history, which was on guard against a formidable enemy, had now become theirs. This, Han Momo, who had been working at the side, was so shocked that she couldn't close her mouth. It wasn't until Ning Shi asked her to help collect the dress that she came back to her senses and ran over. Also, Momo, inform the media immediately that Zailing will announce the treasure of the store today. Ning Shi decided to strike while the iron was hot. Right after the incident in history, she would publish both sets of Zailing and Han Xiao. All right, I'll go now. Momo was excited. If the people from history saw this, they would die of anger. This was truly making a wedding dress for someone else. While Ning Shi was speaking, Han Xiao suddenly grabbed Gong Shangzi's collar. You want to fight? Ning Shi quickly ran over and slapped his hand away. What are you doing? He's just a powerless designer. Why would he want to fight you? Do you think everyone is like you? Then why is he looking at me like that? Han Xiao asked coldly. Ning Shi pinched her eyebrows. My designer has been wanting to know who the designer of Black Faith is since he saw it. Now you're standing in front of him. He just glanced at you a few times. What's wrong? Can you spare a piece of meat? Chapter 1183. Gong Shangze was a little embarrassed. I'm sorry, Mr. Han. I'm just very interested in your design style. Han Xiao sized up the handsome young man in front of him. He's the designer of Zailing? Yeah. Didn't you praise him last time for catching your eye and making you interested in challenging him? Speaking of this, all right, I should apologize. I really didn't expect you to really be the designer. Now I'm completely convinced. Ningxi cupped her fists. Han Xiao glanced at her. I've said it before, the designer of Zailing is not as good as me. I can destroy him in minutes. Do you believe me now? Hearing this, Ningxi suddenly thought of something. Wait. So, the reason why you went to history and caused such a ruckus, is it because I didn't believe you back then? Han Xiao, that's right. Ningxi, what a straightforward answer, bastard. Previously, she had guessed countless times who the expert Ning Shueluo had hired was and where she had hired him from, but she never thought that it would all be because of her. Ningxi was completely speechless as she held her forehead. Great God, I was wrong. I really know that I was wrong. From now on, every word you say, I will believe it without a doubt. I will never doubt you again. Gong Shangze was also surprised when he heard this. He didn't expect that the reason this person designed Black Faith was because of him. He wasn't angry at Han Zhao's "I can destroy him in minutes" at all, because he indeed had the strength to do so, and was instead very honored to be treated as an opponent by such a person. All right, in order to apologize for my blindness, and to thank you for this gift, I'll treat you to dinner after the press conference tonight. Ningxi looked at Han Xiao and said. He naturally wouldn't refuse to eat. Han Xiao pressed down on the brim of his hat, made an okay gesture, then leisurely turned around and left. After Han Xiao left, Gong Shangze couldn't help but ask Ningxi, Boss, do you think it's possible to invite Mr. Han to our company? If such a person could join Zailing. Ningxi immediately rejected Gong Shangze's suggestion without thinking. Don't even think about it, that guy. I can't control him. No matter how powerful a weapon is, if the wielder can't control it, it will only harm himself in the end. Ning Shueluo was the best example. Moreover, such a carefree person probably wouldn't stay in one place. From his attitude, it could be seen that design was just one of his little hobbies. Hearing this, Gong Shangze did not say anything more, but his eyes shone even brighter. Some people were just like that. They were so talented that you couldn't even feel jealous of them. You could only lament that there was always someone better than you in the world, and from there, you would have the urge to work hard to reach a higher and vaster place. After a short preparation, Han Momo immediately spread the news that Zailing was going to publicize the treasure of the shop. The press conference was held at the Royal Noble Hotel. Although the announcement was very rushed, almost all the media outlets flocked to the news as soon as they heard it, and the news was still spreading rapidly. After all, they had just gotten nothing from history, and Zailing immediately said that they were also going to announce their store's treasure. How could they not be curious? This was definitely big news. Chapter 1184. In the multipurpose hall of the Royal Noble Hotel. It had only been an hour since Zailing's news was released, but the spacious hall was already full. Most of the media had just gone to history to find nothing. They were angrily writing articles at home, scolding history for standing them up on purpose. Then, Zailing's invitation call came in. It was obvious that there would be big news, so they all rushed over. At the same time, history, who had been troubled by Han Zhao's disappearance, naturally received news that Zailing was going to release the treasure of the store. Ning Shueluo immediately sent someone to check on the situation. In the end, she was still worried, so she changed her clothes, put on sunglasses, and personally went over. She wanted to see what Zhe Ling was up to. No matter what they wanted to do, as long as they could coax Han Xiao back, they would still win. Han Xiao had always been a moody person, so even after the phone call with Han Xiao, Ning Shuilua still did not give up. She still asked Dai Wei to use all means to contact him, and even hired the Internet Water Army to guide the public's opinion. On the Internet, History's supporters said that History would never deliberately use such a method to hype up the store. There must have been an accident, and after the accident was resolved, the treasure of the store would definitely be released in an absolutely stunning manner. The public relations team that Xiao Weilan had built was very professional, and they had already arranged the release in a short period of time. After most of the reporters had arrived, Xie Chuan, the public relations director of Zhe Ling, cleared his throat and said, "Thank you very much for coming, friends from the media. Today, Zhe Ling will be releasing a design that we have been preparing for many days. This design was jointly completed by our chief designer, ZX, and the master of traditional Chinese painting, Song Jin, Mr. Song. It will be our treasure." As soon as Xie Chuan's voice fell, the media at the scene was in an uproar. Song Jin? Master of traditional Chinese painting, Song Jin? You must be joking. Didn't Mr. Song live in seclusion a long time ago? I wanted to interview him last time, but I didn't see him at all. Why would he go and work with a clothing company like Zhe Ling? This is unbelievable. I think he's bluffing. How can he bluff such a thing? Even History can stand us up. What else is impossible? My friends from the media, please be patient. Our treasure of calmness is about to appear. Today, we are very fortunate to be able to invite our old Mr. Song to be here personally to demonstrate and explain this work of art to us. Following this sentence, the reporters who were still doubting him were all stunned. Fuck. Song Jin would personally come? In an instant, everyone subconsciously held their breath and looked in the direction of the entrance of the hall. This time, Zhe Ling's tone was so big. She had invited so many people. If she played them like History did, they would not be able to survive in this circle. In the corner, Ning Shuilua, who had personally come to inquire about the news, had a flash of sharpness in her eyes. Song Jin, how is that possible? History had previously attacked Zhe Ling for plagiarism because many of the traditional Chinese painting elements on Zhe Ling's clothes were the same as Zhe Ling's. But now, Zhe Ling had actually invited Song Jin to collaborate with him? This was absolutely impossible. Song Jin wasn't someone who could be hired with money. History had also sent people to invite her, but she didn't even say a word. This is impossible. Chapter 1185. Qin Zifen, the marketing director of History, also said, "Boss, don't listen to them. How could it be Song Jin? Maybe he's just Song Jin's disciple or someone who deceives the world." Song Jin doesn't have a disciple, Ning Shuilua said. It's either that Elder Song isn't feeling well and can't come, or it's just to prove the credibility of this statement. In fact, Elder Song doesn't care about worldly affairs, so she doesn't know what Zhe Ling is doing. Even if she knew, I'm afraid she wouldn't care. What kind of cooperation is this? It sounds so nice, but it's most likely because they got their hands on some of Elder Song's works at a high price, So they used elemental transformation on the clothes. I've seen this kind of hype many times, Qin Zifen said confidently. While the media was excited and curious, there were naturally many people who had the same idea as Qin Zifen. Soon, two girls dressed in elemental overalls appeared at the door. They were carefully carrying a gown covered in a thick silk cloth. They placed the gown in the middle of the stage and stood to one side. TSK, at least it's a little better than history. At least there's a dress. Someone murmured in the audience. Even if there is, I don't think it can surpass Black Faith. Zailing has little chance of winning. It's useless to forcefully borrow Elder Song's reputation. Hearing about Black Faith, the surrounding people were all amazed. That's true. Not long after that, a spirited old man with white hair and a ruddy complexion slowly walked in, led by a little girl. Seeing the old man led in by Han Momo, there was a sudden gasp. Song Jin was famous both in China and abroad. His portrait and paintings were even printed in school textbooks. Everyone knew him, let alone these media workers. Song Jin. Oh my God, it's really Elder Song. Out of respect for Song Jin, a master of virtue and prestige, all the reporters present stood up in unison. In fact, Ningxi didn't expect Song Jin to come in person. Gong Shangza had communication difficulties, especially when he was in front of the camera. Therefore, in the past, Han Momo had appeared on such occasions on his behalf. Naturally, it was the same this time. However, this press conference was too important, and Gong Shangza was worried that Momo wouldn't be able to accurately convey the message. Just as he was worrying about it, Elder Song took the initiative to ask him to come forward. In this regard, Ningxi was naturally endlessly grateful. In fact, she had hoped from the start that Elder Song would appear, because unless he personally appeared, it would be too difficult to believe that Zai Ling and Song Jin were working together. Oh, Mr. Song, are you really working with Zai Ling now? Master, why did you choose to work with Zai Ling instead of other famous brands? Rumor has it that even the #1 brand in China, Step by Step, once invited you to collaborate with them, but you didn't agree. History seems to have invited him as well. The live audience was filled with intense questions from the reporters. The questions came one after another, and they were all about Song Jin. Song Jin coughed lightly and reminded them in a slightly displeased tone. Today is Zai Ling's new product launch. I hope everyone knows what's important. After saying this, Song Jin didn't say anything else. She reached out and removed the cloth covering her clothes. With a clatter, the cloth was unwrapped, and Zai Ling's shop's most prized treasure was revealed. Chapter 1186. The reporters who were still asking Song Jin questions were all stunned on the spot. Oh, my God. It's so beautiful. Is this Zai Ling's signature piece? I thought that history's Black Faith was already amazing, But now, I see a completely different style of extreme. This is too shocking. ZX's personal style blends perfectly with Elder Song's traditional Chinese painting. The entire outfit makes people feel like they've fallen into a fairyland. Elder Song, does this outfit have a name? Song Jin was satisfied with the reporter's reactions. She stroked her white beard and said, graceful as a swan, graceful as a dragon, glorious autumn chrysanthemum, luxuriant spring pine, like a light cloud covering the moon, swaying like snow in the wind. From afar, it's as bright as the sun rising. From afar, it's as bright as a lotus flower. At this point, a reporter on the scene said excitedly, could it be that this set of treasures is called Goddess Luo? Song Ji nodded. That's right. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd exclaimed in surprise again. Goddess Luo, Goddess Luo, she really lives up to her name. It's so fitting. Zailing is really amazing. Isn't that so? You always surprise us with unexpected surprises. It's a pity. What's a pity? Of course it's a pity. We even got to see Master Song Jin, but we didn't get to see Zai Ling's legendary designer, ZX. Yeah, he's so mysterious. What do you guys think the code name ZX means? Maybe it's an acronym? In the corner, Ning Shualua's face was contorted in anger. Damn it, Qin Zifen, what's wrong with you? You didn't even know that Zai Ling managed to invite Song Jin. Qin Zifen's forehead was covered in cold sweat. How could he have thought that Zai Ling could invite Song Jin? Besides, he was only in charge of the marketing department. He was not in charge of the design department. Where's Dai Wei? I think he's still looking for someone. Qin Zifen mumbled weakly. Ning Shualua gritted her teeth. Humph, what Goddess Luo? As long as we find Han Xiao, we'll crush Zai Ling. Yes, yes, yes. Of course. Qin Zifen echoed. However, the corner of his mouth was twitching. The problem was that he had to find the person first. That designer's temperament was treacherous, and his whereabouts were uncertain. Moreover, he had already called to say that he wasn't willing to let them use living beings. So where could they find him now? It was useless even if they found it. In fact, when Ning Shualua first hired that person, he felt a little uneasy. He felt that Ning Shualua would never be able to control such a person. There were too many uncertainties. Now, the thing that he was most worried about had happened, boss. Dai Wei walked out from behind Ning Shualua while panting. Did you find him? Ning Shualua asked immediately. Dai Wei shook his head with an awful look on his face. No, no. I think he blocked me with his phone. I went to the place where he might have gone to eat, but I didn't find him. Trash. It's been so long. Don't you know where he lives? Ning Shualua scolded. Dai Wei's expression turned even uglier. I did try to follow him, but he was too vigilant. I couldn't keep up with him at all. I finally managed to follow him, but he was heading for the graveyard in the middle of the night. I didn't dare to follow him. Chapter 1187. What should we do now? Take a look at Zai Ling's work. They even managed to invite Song Jin. Ning Shualua said grumpily. Dai Wei looked at the white gown in the center of the stage and Song Jin, who was explaining the design. His face darkened. No, if he lost this round, he would lose face. How was he going to establish himself in the company? Dai Wei gritted his teeth and said, Boss, don't worry. I'll go to the graveyard to look for it. Then hurry up, Ning Shualua said angrily. Dear media friends, please don't be in such a hurry to leave. Zai Ling has a second treasure. Xie Yichuan's voice came from the stage. Dai Wei stopped in his tracks. Ning Shuelua and Qin Zifan, who were about to leave, also looked at the stage. What? There's a second one? Dai Wei's face turned pale, and then he sneered, judging from the first one. I can basically guess the style of the second one. One or two are actually the same. Besides, the rarer something is, the more precious it is. Of course, there can only be one treasure of the store. How stupid Zhe Ling is to make two. Qin Zifan looked at the stage. They designed two treasures of the same quality in such a short time? Even if the designer had the inspiration, each piece of clothing is expensive. Zhe Ling's liquidity can't support it, can it? Song Jin had already left the stage. The introducer was changed to a staff member in a black gown. After two staff members carefully moved the cloth-covered clothing out, the staff member in the black dress walked to the center of the stage. Before unveiling the cloth, she explained, "First of all, I need to explain to the media that the design of this set of clothing was not made by our designer, ZX, but by another designer specially hired by Zhe Ling. There is only one piece of clothing that he designed for Zhe Ling. It's the complete opposite of Luo Shenwei's. It's designed to give our customers a different experience and satisfy more different needs. Don't talk so much, quickly open it for me to see." That's right. You're being so mysterious. Show me if you're a mule or a horse. Ning Shuelua sneered as she listened to the staff member's introduction. The complete opposite style? Is Zhe Ling going to make something to counter our black faith? Dai Wei had naturally thought of this as well. That's just wishful thinking. Han Zhao's style is something that no one can imitate. The name of our clothes is All Beings. Dai Wei, Ning Shuelua, and Qin Zifan's expressions changed when they heard the words everyone. What? All living beings? Did Zhe Ling steal our ideas? With a hualop sound, the cloth covering the clothes was forcefully removed by the staff. An extremely luxurious, mysterious, and ancient Chinese gown appeared before everyone's eyes. It was not stealing ideas, nor was it imitating others. It was all living beings. This piece of clothing was actually the one Han Xiao had designed. All beings. The three of them stood there in a daze. Their faces were filled with disbelief. The expressions on their faces were like a flashing lantern. Their missing beings, the beings they had searched for so long, had actually appeared at the press conference of Zhe Ling's most precious treasure. Their calming treasure had become a spiritual? Chapter 1188. As soon as All Living Beings was released, countless reporters couldn't help but stand up in excitement. Oh my God! I thought black faith was the limit. I didn't expect. This is too shocking. What kind of aura is needed to suppress this piece of clothing? Of course, among the praises, there were also some doubts. But this isn't Zhe Ling's own design. Didn't the staff just say it? It's a special designer. So what if it's a special designer? Do you think Dai Wei designed history's black faith? Although he's been vague and wants to make people think it's his design, it's definitely not his design, okay? He's still hired external help. Although a designer's style can change, there are boundaries and barriers. How can one person control such a big change? It's understandable that Zhe Ling hired external help. Plus, history did it first. Speaking of which, why do I feel like black faith and all living beings are so similar? No matter what, Zhe Ling really won this time. Ha ha ha. Today is so exciting. There's going to be a headline. Looking at Zhe Ling's staff introducing black faith and listening to the endless exclamations and praises from the media, Ning Shuelua was so angry that she almost vomited blood. What style? That was designed by the same person. That was history's thing. Ning Shuelua took a deep breath to suppress the sweetness in her throat. Go and call the police. Tell them that history stole our treasure. Dai Wei was troubled. Boss, I'm afraid it's not appropriate. Although I don't know how Zhe Ling did it, This outfit was definitely given to them by Han Xiao. So what? Every single piece of jewelry, diamond, and jade on that outfit is my money. Ning Xuelua almost lost control and roared, "Boss, lower your voice." Dai Wei pulled Ning Xuelua to a corner. "Although that's what you said, boss, our Black Faith, Han Xiao, didn't take a single cent from it. If we really want to calculate the money, we can't stand on our own 2 feet. Besides, he didn't sign a contract with us. We voluntarily provided these materials to him. Don't mention Black Faith to me. What's the point of a defeated plan?" Ning Xuelua's face was dark. Of course, Dai Wei knew this. But things have already come to this. So, do you really want me to swallow my anger and watch as Zhe Ling's wedding dress is made for me? Dai Wei was also very irritated. "Boss, of course I don't want to. However, you really can't provoke Han Xiao. If you don't believe me, then don't blame me for not warning you when the time comes." Dai Wei's words were very serious. Ning Xuelua had also heard some of Han Xiao's deeds from him. Even if she was about to explode from anger, she naturally did not dare to do anything. "Dai Wei, listen carefully. Everything that has happened now is because of your incompetence. You know what to do." Ning Shui gave him an ultimatum. Dai Wei's fingers were clenched into fists by his side. The designs that he had stolen from Gong Shangza had not been completely used up. However, due to the limited number of them, and the fact that he had not restrained himself earlier, he had used up too many of them in one go. Now, unless it was a critical moment, he could not simply take them out, however. It seemed like he had to take a few out now. Every time he took out one, it felt like he was cutting his flesh. Chapter 1189. Zhe Ling's press conference came to a successful end. She had won a beautiful battle since she took the initiative to declare war not long ago. Not long after the press conference ended, the internet was full of reports about the press conference. There were too many highlights and surprises in Zhe Ling's press conference. Coupled with the empty city stratagem of history, Zhe Ling's popularity skyrocketed and the public's opinion was on her side. Seeing that everything was going smoothly, Ning Shi's nerves, which had been stretched taut for so many days, finally relaxed. She then took out her phone and called Han Xiao, inviting him to dinner. To show her sincerity, she invited him to her house, along with Gong Shangza, Han Momo, and Xiao Weilan. Elder Song said she didn't want to disturb the gathering of young people, so she didn't come. "Guru, come over for dinner. We all want to thank you. Since you've given us such a big gift, you must treat us to a meal. I'm at Peach Blossom Cove." "It's too far." Han Zhao's voice came from the phone. "Where do you live? I'll pick you up, okay?" Dragon Burial Mountain. Ning Shi's face turned as black as coal when she heard this. "I'm sorry, I can't pick you up. How about Pearl River Imperial View? Should this one be closer?" "Sure." After Han Xiao finished speaking, he hung up. Ning Shi looked at her cell phone speechlessly. Damn it. Did someone live in a cemetery? Wasn't he scared to death? She didn't even know where to start, however. She seemed to recall that he seemed to have mentioned that he was also a tombkeeper. This guy's career span. It was hard to understand. Ning Shi went to the supermarket to buy ingredients and went to Pearl River Imperial View to prepare food. Although they had moved, the kitchen utensils were all there. Gong Shangza and the others arrived one after another. Ning Shi was preparing in the kitchen. Gong Shangza and Han Momo looked at the dishes Ning Shi prepared on the table with a strange expression. Han Momo looked at the dishes on the table and swallowed. "Sister Shi, don't you think you've cooked too much?" Ning Shi chuckled. "Not much, definitely not much. I'm afraid it's not enough. Wait, there are still some dishes in the kitchen." The doorbell rang, and Ning Shi hurriedly went to open the door. Sure enough, it was Han Xiao. He was still dressed in black and white striped sportswear. The hat on his head was taken off, revealing his long, straight hair. Speaking of which, This was the first time she had seen a man with such long hair. Almighty, you really picked a good time to come. The food is just right. Sit down, it's time to eat. And Han Xiao sat down at the table. Ningxi brought up the last plate of pig trotters and sat down. Mr. Han, let me give you a toast. Your design is really very impressive. I hope that I'll have the chance to interact more with you in the future. Gong Shangzi raised his cup. Chapter 1190. Ningxi was speechless. She was almost defeated by this person. Okay, 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 I won't talk anymore. From now on, let's stop talking and focus on eating. God, you eat. Only then did Han Xiao slowly pick up his chopsticks. Although he was eating slowly, it didn't hinder his eating speed at all. Soon, the bowls of food on the table were emptied. Han Momo, who was just looking at Han Xiao like a love-struck fool, almost had her eyes pop out. This guy can eat too much. God, you can eat as much as you want a day. There's more in the kitchen. Ningxi smiled as she went to the kitchen to bring the rest of the dishes over. Recently, there were a lot of foodies on the internet who started a live broadcast of eating, and it was quite popular. If Han Xiao also started a live broadcast of eating, he would definitely kill those people. They invited the studio's people to join them to show their sincerity, but who knew that they only had food in their eyes. They might even think that they weren't sincere enough for eating with so many people. Therefore, after Gong Shangzi and the others were almost done eating, they tactfully took their leave. After Han Xiao finished sweeping the dishes, Ningxi hurriedly asked, God, were you satisfied with the food? Not bad. It's better than KFC. Ningxi, her cooking skills had actually fallen to the point of being on par with KFC. After eating, Han Xiao got up and was about to leave. After a few steps, he saw something out of the corner of his eye, and he suddenly stopped. What's wrong? Ningxi followed Han Xiao's line of sight. Han Xiao seemed to be looking in the direction of her cloakroom. To be exact, he was looking at one of the dresses in the cloakroom. Ningxi looked at the dress that Han Xiao was staring at and asked, What? God is interested in that dress? Gentlemen really think alike. That's my personal favorite. It's a very awesome brand that very few people know about. It's called G. Ningxi thought that he was interested in this brand, so she simply walked over and turned the switch on the dressing table. After a clicking sound, the entire wall behind the cloakroom suddenly opened to both sides, and inside appeared a room full of GE brand clothes. Han Xiao stared at the clothes in a trance, and his eyes seemed to reveal an emotion close to sadness, which surprised Ningxi. Cough. God, is there something wrong with these clothes? I designed it, Han Xiao said. Ningxi was dumbfounded. Holy shit, you designed it? You're that genius designer who only appears once in a blue moon? To be honest, it was really possible. Do you like it? Han Xiao asked. What do you mean, these clothes? Of course, who wouldn't like such a beautiful woman? I'm sure no girl wouldn't like her, but I don't have the ability to collect so many of them. My boyfriend got them. There's no girl who wouldn't like it. That's good, Han Xiao muttered. His tone was clearly one of joy, but for some reason, he sounded so regretful and lonely. Ningxi touched her chin. TSK, there's a situation. That look in his eyes was clearly related to women. Let's go. Ningxi was confused. Han Xiao waved his hand and turned to leave. How about I give you a ride? I thought you didn't want to go to the cemetery. You really live in a cemetery? Fine. Suit yourself. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.